This cable. God.
Sometimes I wish I could use Bluetooth headphones for tracking instruments or for tracking vocals because the cable gets in the way, but the latency is too much to play an instrument. So when OneOdio sent me their headphones, the Studio Max 2, and they claimed 9 milliseconds of latency, I just had to test it myself. Do they really have 9 milliseconds? I did the test and yeah, let's see. Full disclaimer, OneOdio sent me these headphones for free to review. There's no money exchange and I can say whatever I want. There's no script approval. Everything here is my opinion. Wait, to turn that on. The main issue I have with Bluetooth is that the protocol itself adds about 200 milliseconds of latency. It happens with the AirPods Pro 3. You cannot use them to play an instrument on your iPhone and things like that. I created an experiment in my studio to measure headphone latency. So let's see the latency for the AirPods Pro 3. And it came to 203 milliseconds, which is useless for tracking or playing an instrument in your phone. If you ever tried it with the Ableton Note, you will see that it's impossible to play. Keep in mind that for hearing aids, anything beyond 30 milliseconds is already considered like an echo and it doesn't work very well. Our brain can catch it. The Studio Max 2 comes with a USB-C transmitter. That's how I'm tracking my own vocals right now. It's bypassing Bluetooth completely. It's using something else to transmit the audio from these to my headphones. I tested it again with the not very scientific test, but I think it works, and measured the latency the same way as I did with the AirPods Pro 3. But to do that, I needed the baseline. The audio interface still has some latency. It's very small, but we have to test it. My wired headphones through my Arturia AudioFuse Studio have about 3 milliseconds of latency. That's the interface, not the headphones. So when I use the OneOdio headphones with ultra latency mode with this, it had 12 milliseconds. So you subtract the 3 milliseconds from my interface and it gives you the 9 milliseconds they claim. So it's true, it's just 9 milliseconds. So their claim checks out. Now, this is just a measure, a test that I did for this, but I played synths, I played guitar through Ableton, listening to it, and there's no noticeable delay. Based on the latency alone, I could not tell that these are wireless headphones. It's really, really quick. Right now, I'm using them to track my voice while I'm recording this to make sure that the levels are correct and things like that. Unnoticeable. But how do they sound? I compared the Studio Max 2 wired against my VSX Immersion 1 and my DT990 Pro. I assessed how they sound, but based on that I made another test that I can show you so you have actual data. I recorded all three using my Austrian Audio OC818. The other experiment was about tracking the audio latency. But this one is about tracking the frequencies. We're using the same microphone, the same setup, and we're just listening back to the audio. So I'm going to play my song, and then what's being recorded by the microphone is what you see in the frequency here. So here on the left we have the DT990 Pro, and you'll see the frequencies are very similar. The gray area is what's captured by the microphone. And here on the right, we have the OneOdio, and it doesn't have the same levels when it comes to the low end. So you see, this is more similar. It's like a flat line, whereas these, the OneOdio, they lack a bit of the low end. Maybe you can tweak that with EQ, but keep that in mind. These are the DT990 Pro. In version 1, the low end on these is really good. The way Tonal Balance Control works, it's a bit more extreme than what you see on the EQ, but it's useful to visualize that. You could try to EQ that. Just keep that in mind. So when I listen to it, the kick comes through, but it lives more in the mids than in the low end. The transient is punchy, so this would be good if you use them for DJing. But what does that mean in terms of real usage? Are these worth it or not? For tracking vocal, for recording guitar, live sessions, DJing, they sound good enough. For mixing and mastering, I wouldn't rely just on them, like you could use them, but always. And this happens with every headphones. You always have to compare with different headphones, different situations. So it's not something new, but if you only have one pair of headphones, these have some lacking in the low ends. I will be using these a lot because I like tracking vocals, I like tracking guitar, especially for guitar. For me, it's always been a pain because they get in the way. With these headphones, I won't have this issue. A few practical things: you get 4 connections: Bluetooth, the low latency dongle, a 3.5mm cable, and 6.35mm cable. The cable is reversible, so that means that you can plug either side to the headphones. So these headphones have the 2 inputs, so you can connect one or the other to the headphones, and then the other end goes to your audio interface or whatever you're using, DJing interface. And if the battery dies, you can still plug them in and they work passively. So you don't need battery to listen to music with the headphones using the cable. That's very good if in case you're using them in a live setting, like for DJing, stuff like that. You forgot to charge any of the devices, because keep in mind you have to charge the dongle and also the headphones. Then you can use Bluetooth and all of that separately. You need to charge them both. The battery is rated 120 hours. I haven't tested that, but I've been using them for days without charging them. Again, I haven't noticed any issues there. And there's an app where you can customize the EQ and a gaming mode that reduces Bluetooth latency. So that's when you use them in Bluetooth mode for your iPhone or your Android. And that gaming mode, it reduces the latency. I could not find a way to test that, but it's still not enough for playing music. Which, by the way, another thing about this becomes a user interface when you connect it to a computer. And it doesn't have a lot of latency, like bass latency. And to connect them using the ultra low latency mode, you just have to start these, pushing this button for a while, and then start these, pushing a button for a while. And then there's a voice that says connected in English and Chinese. You can set them in Chinese as well, where it says connected, disconnected, stuff like that. So the setup is really simple. In a world where most headphones are wired, can you make music with wireless headphones? I would say yes. For tracking and recording, yes. Just producing, yes. The latency, it's low enough that it feels like it's a wired headphones. I cannot really notice the difference. And what I like is that I could test, I could measure. It's 9 milliseconds for real, like I did the test. I think it's a good price for the product you're getting if you know what you're getting. It's not for mastering or mixing, but they're really good for an environment where you really need the wireless system. These are worth checking out. There's a link in the description. There's affiliate links. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope I can give you the best review. It's very difficult with headphones to give you a proper review because it's very personal. Any question, leave them in the comments. I always try to reply to everyone. So yeah, thank you for watching and see you on the next one. Bye.